I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. I had a viewer send me a email with a 100 of Warren Buffett's best quotes and thoughts about life and the stock market. So I thought I'd just rattle off some of my favorite ones out of here. I'm not going to rattle off all 100 of them here, but I'm just going to go rapid fire through them. Before I start though, looking at the Wall Street Journal today, there was an article about millionaires in the United States. Interesting fact here, 78% of all American millionaires are self-made. 78% are self-made. You know, that flies into what a lot of people think, that most wealth in the United States is inherited. It came down from their parents or whatever. And that's just not the case. Almost 8 out of every 10 current millionaires in the United States are self-made. They did it on their own. They started from nothing. I would be in that boat. I became a multi-millionaire at a pretty young age. I had lots of love and support from my parents. I had fantastic parents, just like Warren Buffett did. But financially, I didn't get any help. But they gave me lots of good advice, taught my brother and I the value of hard work and discipline and paying yourself first. And of course, my dad has been in real estate since the late 1950s, so I grew up with an understanding of what real estate can do for you in the long term. I often say here, I like Warren Buffett would always say, he won the lottery. He was born an American to an incredible mother and father. I was the same thing. I was born Canadian, one of the greatest countries in the world. They give us every opportunity to succeed here. It's not perfect. There's always things that could be better in any country. But I was born a Canadian, one of the greatest countries in the world, to a good mom and dad, and then I ran with it. And people would give their left arm to become Canadian citizens, yet so many people here that are born Canadian have every opportunity, love to complain. So let me just rattle them off quick here. I'm going to keep this quick here for the weekend. Some of my favorites here. Remember that the stock market is manic depressive. Sure is. Up, down. People think that when the stock market drops 400 or 500 points, or your Johnson & Johnson shares drop $3, there's got to be something wrong with the company, with Johnson & Johnson. It has nothing to do with the company. It's just institutional investors trading in, trading out. It's just churning. You have to remember that. It's completely manic depressive. That's why one day the market will be up 400 points, everything looks rosy. The next day it's down 300. Nothing's changed. It's just people trading, taking profit, whatever. Beware the investment activity that produces applause. The great moves are usually greeted by yawns. Time is the friend of the wonderful company. It's the enemy of the mediocre company. Only buy something that you'd be perfectly happy to hold if the market shut down for 10 years. So true. And I think this would be the same with equities or Vancouver real estate. Buy a home that you can live in, enjoy, grow into, and keep for at least 10 years if they close the MLS. Because again, those friction costs will kill you anyways. Real estate should always be purchased with a long-term horizon. All there is to investing is picking good stocks at good times and staying with them as long as they remain good companies. I never attempt to make money on the stock market. I buy on the assumption that if they close the market the next day and not reopen it for 10 years. So like the earlier one I just said, Warren Buffett's holding period in a lot of these great investors is forever, unless something dramatically changes with the fundamentals of the company. Good companies tend to stay good companies. Of course, they'll always run into some dark clouds. I've got so many holdings, fantastic companies. Macdonald's comes to mind that I've owned for over 20 years, that have had some incredible years. They've had a few bad years. Not going to sell the stock though. Unless they got out of the hamburger business and the real estate business, which Macdonald's is in, I'll hang on to them. Generally, they tend to steer the ship in the right direction, which McDonald's has done. Calling someone who trades actively in the market an investor is like calling someone who repeatedly engages in one-night stands a romantic. If you aren't thinking about owning a stock for 10 years, don't even think about owning it for 10 minutes. Time is the friend of the wonderful company, the enemy of the mediocre. The business schools reward difficult, complex behavior more than simple behavior, but simple behavior is far more effective. The most important quality for an investor is temperament, not intellect, and not intellect. You need a temperament that neither derives great pleasure from being with the crowd or against the crowd. True. Just even keel, you buy, you hold, you tune out a lot of the static and the noise that's just that's known as the media and the financial news that's out there. Forecasters may tell you a great deal about the forecaster, but they tell you nothing about the future. Buy a stock the way you would buy a house. Understand and like it such that you'd be content to own it in the absence of a market. So yeah, buy a house. If they close the MLS the next day, you're totally fine with that. For 240 years, it's been a terrible mistake to bet against America. Now is no time to start. Agree. 80% of my total portfolio, as I've told you guys, is in U.S. companies. There's lots of great companies in Canada. There's some good European companies, but America is where it's at, in my opinion. Most of the great companies in this world are based in the United States. Widespread fear is your friend as an investor because it serves up bargain purchases. Yeah, and there's a bunch of others. Maybe I'll do it in a second part. I don't want it to go on too long, but real practical, advice. The bottom line for most of Warren Buffett's stuff is buy quality companies, buy quality real estate, and monitor it, and just hang on to it. Don't do anything dumb. Don't do some knee-jerk reaction because some clown on CNBC says that we're headed for a market crash. Collect those cash flows, the dividends that they pay, collect the rent checks from your tenants, and just call it a day. Enjoy life. People want to make simple things seem, complicated, and it doesn't have to be. And again, I always tell you guys, do that 100 or 200 hours of research. Learn the basics of investing, the fundamentals of buying and holding quality real estate and stock. That's all you need to do. I've often said here, matter of fact, if you want to invest in the stock market, you do it with one simple purchase. Just buy the S&P 500 ETF, VOO, through Vanguard's. iShares has one too. And you can call it a day pretty much. Every quarter, reinvest those dividends into more shares or put it on the automatic DRIP, the dividend reinvestment program. I would do the trick for, 90, you would beat over 90% of the active investors, 90% over the next 10 or 15 years. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks to all my new subscribers. Thanks to everyone that continues to buy my book on Amazon. I'll see you next week.